When the baobab tree bleeds at midnight, they say it means someone in the village is being replaced bone by bone, breath by breath, until nothing remains but an empty shell walking among the living. Kesi should have listened to the old warnings, should have paid attention when the red sap began weeping from the ancient tree's bark 3 nights before the new moon, should have noticed how the village dogs whimpered and pressed themselves against their owner's legs, refusing to venture out after dark. But Kesi was a practical woman, the best midwife in all of Mombala, and she had delivered too many babies and closed too many eyes to believe in spirits and shadows. When pregnant Fatima's labour pains began in the dead of night, Kesi wrapped her medicine bag around her waist and walked alone through the darkness to the woman's hut on the village outskirts. She should have known something was wrong when she saw herself sitting by the fire. The other Kesi looked up as she approached and smiled with teeth that caught the firelight wrong to bright, too sharp, like polished bone. "You're late," the thing wearing her face said in her own voice. "Fatima has been calling for you." Kesi's blood turned to ice water in her veins. The creature was perfect, same height, same tribal scars marking her cheeks, same calloused hands from years of delivering babies. Even the small mole above her left eyebrow was exactly right. But its eyes were holes, deep and dark as abandoned wells. "What are you?" Kesi whispered, her hand moving instinctively to the iron amulet at her throat. The false Kesi tilted, its head at an impossible angle, like a bird studying a worm. "I am you, but better. I am what you will become when your usefulness ends. The mothers of this village need someone who will not grow old, will not tire, will not die. They need perfection." From inside the hut came Fatima's scream, not the cry of a woman in labour, but something else entirely, something filled with terror. "What have you done to her?" Kesi demanded. "I delivered her child," the creature replied, standing with movements that flowed like water but felt wrong, unnatural. "A perfect delivery. No pain, no blood, no mess. The baby was born sleeping, so peaceful. Fatima was so grateful. She offered me her second-born in exchange for the service." Horror clawed at Kesi's throat. "Babies are not meant to be born sleeping, aren't they?" The thing that wore her face smiled wider. "So much quieter that way. So much less trouble. I have been practicing, you see, learning your trade. But I am so much better at it than you ever were." Around them, the night grew deathly still. Even the insects had stopped their chirping, as if the very air had become poisoned. The red sap from the bleeding baobab tree began to glow faintly in the darkness, casting everything in the colour of fresh blood. "Show me," Kesi said, though every instinct screamed at her to run. "Show me what you've done." The creature's smile became something terrible. Of course, a midwife should always see the work of her replacement. It led her into the hut, moving with that flowing, wrong motion. Inside, Fatima lay on her sleeping mat, staring at the ceiling with eyes that reflected no light. In her arms was a bundle of cloth, perfectly still. "Fatima," Kesi whispered, kneeling beside the woman. Fatima's head turned toward her with the grinding sound of old bones. When she spoke, her voice was flat, emotionless. "The midwife came. She delivered my child. Everything is perfect now." Kesi reached for the bundle in Fatima's arms, but the woman's grip was iron strong. "Let me see the baby, sister." "The baby is sleeping." The midwife said it will sleep forever. No crying, no trouble, perfect. With growing horror, Kesi realized that the bundle was too light, too flat. There was no child inside, only rocks and sand wrapped in cloth. The creature had taken Fatima's baby and somehow convinced the grieving mother that everything was as it should be. "Where is the real child?" Kesi demanded, spinning to face her doppelganger. The creature was no longer bothering to maintain human posture. It stood bent at impossible angles, its limbs too long, its fingers ending in points like thorns. Safe, fed, growing strong in the belly of the bleeding tree. "All the children I have delivered are there, waiting to be born again when the time is right." Mmoatia, Kesi breathed, recognizing the forest demon from her grandmother's warnings. "The child stealer." "But why wear my face?" "Because yours is trusted," it hissed, its voice becoming layered, as if multiple people were speaking from the same throat. "The mothers call for Kesi when their time comes. They open their doors to Kesi. They trust Kesi with their most precious gift. But you are growing old, losing your touch. Last season, you lost 3 mothers in childbirth. The village questions your skill. It was true. Kesi had been haunted by those losses, wondering if she could have done something different. Save those women somehow. I offer perfection, the Mmoatia continued. No more death in childbirth. No more deformed babies. No more crying infants keeping families awake. Only peaceful sleep. And grateful parents who will do anything to keep their children safe. That's not life, Kesi said firmly. Life is messy and painful and beautiful and real. Children are meant to cry, to grow, to cause trouble and bring joy. You offer death disguised as peace. The creature's face began to shift and melt, showing glimpses of its true form. Underneath something made of twisted wood and dried leaves, with holes where its eyes should be and a mouthful of thorns. Then you choose the hard path, it said. But I will have this village. If not through willing exchange, then through conquest. I will take your place whether you agree or not. And when I am done, everyone will prefer me to the failing old woman you have become. It lunged at her with inhuman speed, claws extended. But Kesi was ready. She had been a midwife for 30 years, had fought death in birthing huts, and won more often than she lost. She knew how to fight for life. The iron amulet around her neck blazed with sudden heat as she pressed it against the creature's forehead. The Mmoatia shrieked and recoiled, smoke rising from the point of contact. I bind you by iron and blood, Kesi chanted in the old language her grandmother had taught her. I bind you by the pain of birth and the joy of first breath. I bind you by the love of mothers and the strength of women who bring life into this world. The creature writhed and hissed, its false human form melting away completely. But it was not defeated. You cannot destroy me, it snarled. I am doubt made flesh, fear given form. Every time a mother questions whether her child is healthy, I grow stronger. Every time a woman fears she's not good enough, I feed. You may send me away, but I will return. Then I will be waiting, Kesi said firmly. Because that is what real midwives do. We wait, we watch, we fight for every life. Even when we're afraid we're not enough. Especially then. She pressed the iron amulet harder, and the creature screamed one final time before dissolving into smoke and shadow. The red glow from the baobab tree faded, and normal night sounds gradually returned. Fatima blinked, as if waking from a deep sleep. Kesi, when did you arrive? My labor pains have stopped. I think something was wrong. I had the strangest dream about my baby. Kesi knelt beside her and gently examined her belly. The baby was still there, still moving, still alive. Your child is well, sister. But we must move you to the village center. You should not deliver alone out here. As they walked slowly back toward the heart of Mombala, Fatima leaning heavily on Kesi's arm. The midwife looked back once at the great baobab tree. Its bark was smooth and whole, no sign of the red sap that had wept like blood. But Kesi knew the Mmoatia would return. They always did, whenever doubt crept into a midwife's heart. Whenever fear whispered that she was not skilled enough, not strong enough, not good enough to guard the sacred threshold between life and death. She touched her iron amulet and made a silent promise. She would be ready. 3 months later, when Fatima delivered a healthy baby boy, who screamed with the powerful lungs of a future warrior, the entire village celebrated. And when they thanked Kesi for her skill, she simply smiled and said what she always said. I am just a woman who refuses to let death win without a fight. But sometimes, on nights when the moon was dark and pregnant women labored in pain, Kesi would catch a glimpse of movement in her peripheral vision, something that looked too much like herself, waiting patiently in the shadows. And she would grip her iron amulet tighter and whisper the old words of binding. Because she knew that the greatest monsters are orphan, the ones that wear familiar faces and promise easy solutions to life's hardest struggles. And that is why, even today, the midwives of Mombala tell their apprentices, trust your hands, trust your heart, and never trust a birth that comes without struggle. For life without pain is not life at all, but death wearing a beautiful mask.